Hi there, and welcome back to the Intusoft Web Studio video training series. In this video, we're going to cover events. So, just what are events? We're going to cover the different event settings that we can set up. We're going to cover the alarm event control object and set that up for showing you the events. We're going to show you the format that gets logged in, the proprietary format, and we're going to show you how to change that over to the database type format. So let's jump right in here to the development environment. Here under the Global tab, you'll find Event Logger. And if we double click on that, we can jump right in here and enable the Event Logger and start to set that up. Before we do that, what I'm going to do is go here under Help and show you here under Alarms, Events, and Trends, and here under Events. This shows that an event can be any tag change, the generation of reports or recipes, opening and closing of screens, logging onto and logging off of the security system, and several other types of things. And Intusoft Web Studio saves these events in a log file, which can then be retrieved by the alarm event control object if you so desire. You don't have to do that, but you can take a look directly at that file if you want to. So here in the help, once we enable that event logger, what are the different settings that we have? First, we have this disable field here, and the disable field, if there's a tag in there or a constant that represents a non-zero value, then this logging will be suspended. So if it's disabled, again, if there's a 1 in there or a 100 or some tag that's a non-zero, then this event settings will be disabled, or the logging will be disabled. So the different checkboxes that we have up here supports the security system, displays, recipe reports, custom messages, and system warnings. So let's talk a little bit about that. System security logs events by the security system, such as logging on and off of users, if a user is created or removed by calling these functions, the user is blocked or unblocked by using those functions, blocked by the security system after several attempts to generate or to attempt to enter an invalid password, expiration of passwords, modification of passwords, or an invalid logon attempt. In addition to those security systems, opening and closing of screens, recipes loaded, saved, initialized, or deleted. If you remember, we have those 4 different capabilities there in recipes. Reports, if they're saved or sent to the printer. And custom messages are events generated by calling the send function event. So let's go take a quick look at that. The send function event allows us to build a custom message where we can put a string, a piece of text that we want saved to the logger, and then optionally we can choose to put in a comment. And if it's a 0 for this flag here, then the event does not have a comment. Otherwise, it's going to put a comment associated with it. And you can optionally put a string in here surrounded by double quotes, or you can put a string tag in here. And then if this flag is set to 1, then it would include that comment. The other neat thing is, so for example, if we put a 1 for that flag, and then we included a tag for that string comment, that'll just go ahead and embed that when we send this, or when we hit this send event function. If we don't include the comment, then the system will automatically pull up a dialog box and ask us a prompt for the comment to be entered in there. So that's kind of a nice feature for that. System warning messages, such as errors that occur when sending alarms by email, a tag was blocked or unblocked, a division by 0 error, or connection or disconnection to the remote security system. In addition to those checkbox up at the top, we can also log tags, and tags can be logged in the values anytime they change. You can also set up a deadband, so you can read the description of that. Basically, it allows you to kind of filter how often you see, or what the difference has to be before you see a change. The message that goes in there, and notice that the messages can also have the format with curly brackets around the tag name, so you can put values embedded right in that message. And so it's really handy. So you don't have to use alarms to log messages. The events are things that you might want to log that are not necessarily treated as alarms. So we've built in this feature to do just that. So before we go back into the configuration, one of the things I do want to show you is the format of the event log. By default, it saves text files in the alarms folder of your project. And when we do that, we get the format that's EV for event, separated by or followed by year, month, and day .evt, and that's in the project alarm subfolder. And the format of this is these different columns. When it's the proprietary format, each one of these P or parameters separates the different columns here. If we're using a database, you'll see these column names and the data types entered into an SQL database or an Access database, which we'll go back and take a look at that when we get into the database video. But you can see all this information is actually logged for every event that comes in, and you can go ahead and look at that after we're done logging. One of the things I do want to point out is this bias, which is the difference in time between where you're at, your time zone, and GMT time. That allows you to potentially log information or events from multiple time zones, multiple countries into the same database, and be able to separate out where those came from, what time zones those came from. So let's go back now, cancel out of help here. And how do we set this up? Let's go into the event logger, double click on this. We're going to enable this. For now, I'm not going to disable anything, and we're going to do the event database configuration in another video and in another area. I'll show you where that's set up as well. So since we don't have security set up yet in this training video, I'm going to just not check that. Display, which is screens. We have the ability to open and close screens with our navigation. We've done some recipes, we've done some reporting, but we'll also build a custom message. And then we're going to turn on tags. We'll go ahead and put the temperature tag in here and put a message, temperature has changed. And I can go ahead and put in that temperature tag right in there. Or I can put in the time or date or anything like that. I can put any value in there. It doesn't have to be that same tag. But I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And once I've done that, I can go ahead and run my project. And let's go back into the development environment because I forgot to configure a button. So let's go, since we use a temperature tag, which is a slider already on the alarms screen, this is already configured for temperature. I'm just going to drop down here and put another button on the bottom of the screen, and we'll call this custom message or custom event. And on the command, I want to use the built-in scripting language, and I want to put an expression in there that's got that send event. Well, let's go back and take a look at the help again. And probably the easiest way is that's called send event. And just go take a look at that. And we go right in here and grab this send event valve open and use the one. And if I don't have that optional comment out here, it'll go ahead and prompt me for that. So I'll just use that and show you all that at the same time. So let's go in here, back into expression, paste that in, and show you what we have in there. That's send event, parenthesis, quote, so parenthesis, quote, valve open, close quote, comma, 1, close parenthesis. And optionally we could put an error condition tag in there if we wanted to, but in this case I'm not going to. Let's see if that is necessarily true. Let me make sure what I just said is true. Send event. And is there a returned value? Yes, there is a returned value in there, so you could put a tag in there and find out if that message was successful or not. So now that we have that, close this. Now we can run this. Go into our alarm screen here. We can change our temperature value, change it again. We can generate a custom event. And now we can see that that's prompting us for this. And we'll go in here and say I'm just testing, and that'll get logged into that database. So where does that show up? What we can do is open up our File Explorer, and sorry, I've got this off screen. I'll bring this back down here. We go into where our project is, and under the alarms, that is now stored in the event. So under today's date, and we can open that up. It's probably better. It's the EVT is looks like that's maybe already tied to something in Windows, but we're just going to open it up with Notepad and bring this in from off screen here. And these are the different columns that were defined, and because we have word wrap going on, it's wrapped around a couple of different columns. Let's turn off word wrap. We can see the different columns that were defined in the help system. So you can see everything. I can see that my temperature was changed, my screens were changed. Let's see, I didn't do anything with recipes yet. I'll reserve that for the next step here. What we can also do is I'll go back into the alarms screen and move this button over to the side here and reduce this historical alarm object here. And if you remember, when we put these objects on the screen, these objects are actually called the alarm event control object, and they can be found here under the data objects, the alarm event control object. And I'm just going to add a new one here on the screen. When I add a new one, I'm not going to change the colors to match the other one. But instead of doing the online alarm, which is what the top one is set for, or the historical, which is the second one, I'm going to actually change this to event, and the events by default are historical. So it's going to read from that file, that proprietary file, and display on the screen. So we can use the filters and different things that we set up back under the alarm condition if we so chose. But in this case, we're just going to use the events in here, and close this, save, and run. And now when I go onto the alarm screen, we can see the different events that we had logged previously because they're coming out of that proprietary file that was saved. And if I create a custom event, let's see, let me move this up to the top. If I create the custom event, type in here testing, just test, and I don't have that column, so let's go set up that column in here and go under my alarms, and down here I can add the columns for the comment. I'll add that in there. Let's see, what else did I want? The value maybe, and what's another good one? Maybe the event time to put in there. So we'll put all those in there. Say OK, and now come back. Take a look at this. Under alarms, so there's all the screens that I had going on. There's my comments where I said test. And let's see, what I haven't shown was the recipe. So let's go in and load in a recipe. We'll call it cake. Save that. Load that back in. And even though we didn't really have any values in there, we can go back in and see that we've opened those screens and we've loaded those recipes. Those are right here. And so we can see those different recipes that we've done and different events as we've logged those. So that's how we use the event alarm control event object there. And let's go now in one last step, and we're not going to get into a lot of details here, but what I did want to show you is instead of logging to the proprietary format, you can go here under project options, and by default the alarm history and the events have to save to the proprietary format. I have to save to the same format because that one of the reasons is because that alarm event control object is tied together there, so they have to go to the same type of format. We could choose database format. If we choose database format, then we can point each one of these to a different database, but they do have to tie to the same type of format. So right now we're going to leave this as proprietary, and when we get to the database configuration video, we will come back and change this and show you how to use that. Also, this history lifetime in days, if this is set to 0, it does no housekeeping. It does not automatically delete files. But if you set this to a certain number of days, it will only keep those number of files around, or those days worth of files around, and go back and clean up files that are any older than that or delete those. So that's events, and hopefully you got something out of this, and we'll be able to use events to make your application do what you need it to do and get the information out of it that you need. Thank you, and have a great day.